Early on in development for the third Jurassic Park film, things were getting pretty hectic. Steven Spielberg had chosen to go work on a separate project after the passing of Stanley Kubrick with AI, and Joe Johnston was currently trying to decide what direction he wanted to take the Dinosaur series in. One of the ideas that was played with initially would have given the new big bad dino, the Spinosaurus, a pretty good reason to go after Alan Grant on the island. And that would involve something that I personally think would have made Jurassic Park 3 a really interesting experience. Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. Now for today's video, I wanted to talk about an abandoned idea from Jurassic Park 3's past that would have involved the death of a totally separate Spinosaurus. You see, one of the things that the crew originally had in mind, and something that they kind of entertained a little bit during pre-production, was the idea of more than one Spino being on the island. And what was actually going to cause the full-grown adult Spinosaurus to chase Dr. Grant and the Kirbys throughout the film was the death of its young. Now, this was just an idea that would have given the Spinosaurus a legitimate motivation to try and kill the humans on Isla Sorna during the movie's runtime, but from my understanding, it didn't really get too far into development because of everything else going on in the story.
And I do remember sort of volunteering the idea that, hey, maybe this one of the mercs kills a baby Spinosaurus, and that's what pisses off the parent Spinosaurus, and that's why it pursues them through the whole story, you know. But you only have so much time, even though it's a 2-hour feature. There's only so much time that you have with these kind of pictures to formulate that kind of stuff into the story structure.
Now, if we just go off of what's currently available in the final version of the film, I think the idea of Cooper, Nash, or maybe someone else actually going into the jungle and either purposefully or even accidentally killing the baby Spino, which leads to the enragement of the adult, would have made for a fantastic idea for Jurassic Park 3's new antagonist. And I say this because not only does it give the creature a legitimate reason to pursue and maim the cast throughout the story, but it also kind of parallels both the Kirbys' search for their own son and his protection, as well as harken back to what the adult Bull Rex was doing in the Lost World, which was just trying to go out of its way to protect its infant. Now, in the end, William H. Macy explained in a 2001 interview that it's likely the Spinosaurus decided to pursue the group because their plane crashed into it when they initially landed on Sorna. In fact, if you actually pay really close attention in Jurassic Park 3, you can see that a big cut has been delivered to the Spinosaurus leg from the plane after it hits it early on in the film. Which is a fun idea in its own right, but personally, I just love the idea of the animal going out of its way to territorially antagonize Grant and the others after the unfortunate death of its young. Also, just think of what kind of interesting design and special effects we could have seen of an infant Spinosaurus had this been adopted into the final film script. We would hopefully have an entirely new creature made by Stan Winston and Industrial Light and Magic, similar to what was done on The Lost World for the Junior Tyrannosaur, and seeing the dinosaur get murked by Cooper or somebody else just makes the concept of Jurassic Park 3 and the whole parenting aspect of the story that much more interesting to me. So major kudos to Ricardo Delgado for, at the very least, entertaining this idea. Because honestly, I'm not even joking, this sounds like one of the more interesting concepts of dinosaur on-human motivations for attacks that I think I've ever heard of in the series. It also opens the door for a lot of animalistic behavioral traits to be shown, from the angry mother going after the people she holds responsible for killing her young. Now, of course, this is not what happens in the final cut, and Cooper just kind of runs out of the jungle before being snatched up by the Spinosaurus, and the plane runs into it while everyone else is trying to escape. I'm sure in someone else's headcanon, they're going to try and connect dots from the relatively minor injuries the mercenary receives in relation to the massive size of the Spinosaurus, and maybe make up something in their minds like, oh, this is what really happened. Maybe Cooper got ambushed by the infant accidentally, decided to shoot it, and then the adult emerged from the jungle to exact revenge. And in all honesty, that would kind of explain why Cooper even managed to escape an encounter with the Spinosaurus in the first place, since I personally always felt like such a teeny tiny man would have never stood a chance against any sort of attack from that gigantic animal. But hey, that's all just fun fan theory stuff that will inevitably come out now that this idea has been properly documented as taking place in the franchise's history. So yeah, even though this was ultimately never used, I have to say that I do really love the idea of a younger Spinosaurus biting the dust, and that being the reason why the adult chooses to go after Dr. Grant and the others in the story. Sure, that's not what eventually went down, but this is an idea that I think perfectly exemplifies a lot of the cooler aspects of Jurassic Park in relation to animal behavior, and I just think it would have made for an incredible piece of JP history. But hey, that's just my own thoughts on the subject matter. What do all of you think? What would you have liked to have seen from this abandoned idea? And do you think it would have made for a cool scene in JP3? Whatever your own thoughts and opinions happen to be, I'd love to hear them in the comments down below. Now before I go, I'd like to thank all of my game wardens, as well as all of my InGen executives. I'd also like to thank all of my park workers and InGen hunters as well. Guys, it really means the world to me that you all continue to support what I do, and I never want you to ever forget that. Now, I'd like to thank you all for watching today's video and hope that you all enjoyed the content. If you feel like I deserve it, I'd appreciate the like and hope that you'll consider subscribing if you're interested in hearing from me again. I'll see you all in the next video, guys, and as always, take it easy.